All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the August 11th, 2020 Board of Education meeting at 7:01 p.m. Sarah, good evening. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Belfiore?
Here.
Mr. Berardi?
Here.
Mr. Biondo?
Here.
Mr. Ludston?
Here.
Mr. Mazzano?
Here.
Mr. Palazzo?
Here.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Here. Okay, thank you. A quorum has been established. We have an action item at the top of our agenda tonight. Before I ask for a motion on that action item, is there any discussion from anyone or any comments? Okay, I need a motion to accept the letter of resignation from Mike Belfiore. Motion made by Board Members Berardi, seconded by Board Member Tribuzio. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio? Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Belfiore?
Okay, motion does carry.
You know what, I think we need to take a moment to thank Mike for his service.
Please.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I served for the public and the children and everything, and the thanks should go to them for having me here. But thank you anyways, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
We have a long evening, so have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight is a public hearing. With that being said, public hearing. There's a resolution authorizing a transfer from the Transportation Fund to the Education Fund. Illinois law requires that a public hearing be held prior to the adoption of the resolution authorizing transfer from the Transportation Fund into the Educational Fund of Norwich School District 80, Cook County, Illinois. The public hearing gives interested individuals an opportunity to make public comments concerning the transfer of funds. A public hearing is not a dialogue or question and answer session between the board and the audience. It is a time when the public can present information and express opinions. The board's role is to listen intently to all comments presented to the public and then consider those comments when the board deliberates on the adoption of the resolution.
Well,
You gonna cue him up?
I would, he's not in the meeting yet, but
Who we're trying to bring in
Craig
is
Schilling.
Dr. Craig Schilling, financial advisor to the district, to speak on the hearing.
There he is. Yay! Let's see. All right. Through the magic of technology, you are in the boardroom, you're in the gym, and you're up on the screen.
Ready to start?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so
We have convened the public hearing. Yes.
okay, well, the purpose of the public hearing is just to invite the public to provide any comments on the permanent transfer of funds from the Transportation Fund to the Education Fund. As the board knows, and it was discussed also with the Finance Committee, the Education Fund's been in deficit, and we've basically turned that around so it has a small reserve, but we need to build that reserve up to a point where it's sufficient as in other funds. The Transportation Fund, on the other hand, has excess reserves, and so the law was extended for 1 year to allow permanent transfers from either of transportation or operation and maintenance to the education fund. So that's what we're doing later this evening. The board will be voting to transfer $300,000 from that reserve to the education fund. Doesn't change the total reserves, just puts them in a place where it'll be less likely that we have to borrow money internally to meet bills in the future. Any questions?
So I would open it up to the public, even if you haven't signed in, if you have any questions pertaining this for Dr. Schilling, feel free to
I
ask.
can't hear.
Yeah, we're just seeing if there's any questions, Craig.
Okay.
Okay, and it doesn't look like there is. No.
There are no questions.
Okay, then you can close the public hearing and vote later on in the meeting. And
We're voting now.
have a good meeting.
All right, Craig, thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Moving on to this action item. I need a motion to approve the adoption of the resolution authorizing transfer from the transportation fund to the educational fund. Motion's made by Board Member Ludston, seconded by Board Member Biondo. Sarah, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion does carry. We will now adjourn the public hearing. The public hearing is now adjourned. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Biondo? Can you please read the mission statement of the district?
The mission of North School District 80 is inspiring educational excellence in a nurturing environment.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda. It's going to be modified. The modification I'm going to make is item 23E as in Edward. The modification that was made, it initially was listed as a second grade special ed teacher. It should read third grade. That's the modification. Anybody else have discussion or comments on the agenda now as modified? All right. Sarah, can I have a roll call, please?
Need a motion.
I need a motion, I'm sorry. Motion.
I'll motion. Second.
Motion made by Board Member Berardi, seconded by Board Member Biondo. Roll call, please.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Okay, that motion does carry. I need a motion to suspend policy 5.122.
I'll motion.
Motion made by Board Member Berardi, seconded by Board Member Mazzano. Can I please have a roll call?
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Ludston? Mr. Trabuzio? Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Okay, motion does carry. Thank you. Want to recognize our visitors tonight. Thank you for coming. We're slowly getting back into in-person per the law and following guidelines by the state. Correspondence, there is no correspondence tonight. Public participation on the sign-in sheet. Okay, there is no public participation. FOIA request. The district did receive one FOIA request since the last board meeting, and that FOIA request came in from the Norwich Park Watchdog, Adam Chudzik. The date on that request was July the 20th, 2020. The context of the request was requesting a copy of the board packet for the July 21st, 2020 board meeting. Presentation. I will turn the floor over now to Ms. Palmer.
Thank you. So this evening, we have two presentations. The first presentation really encompasses all that the district is doing this school year, and it is the district's goals. I'm asking the board to consider these goals and some of the examples of the things that we will do to make these goals come to life this year. I've asked Michelle to be with us because she's an integral part of making these goals happen. And then at the next meeting, you'll officially adopt these goals. So this is a preview or a first look. And if there are any modifications that you'd like to suggest, we're very open to that. We believe these goals encompass all that we're going to do this school year. And the very first one is very focused on what is on everyone's mind right now, and that is safety. So our first goal is really all about the physical, mental, emotional, and especially health and safety of our students and staff this school year. We've chosen to open in a hybrid model because we believe that it's the safest way and we can follow the state guidelines. Tonight, we are going to take a step toward achieving this goal. Bob Biedke and I will be presenting the return to school procedures that will allow you to envision or start to envision what school will be like under this new health and safety guidelines.
Our next goal is to be reviewing our commitment to our multi-tiered systems of support. And this is not just our academic multi-tiered systems of support, but our social-emotional as well. Put this up right now. We're creating a transparent communication with everyone so everyone knows what is going on with our student growth. Looking at data, becoming very data-driven. We have created new grade-level problem-solving meetings that we'll be looking at this year that we've called FLIPS. We like to make little names up of things. That will be looking at the academic and social-emotional needs. We did some training end of last school year with our psychologists and are putting our practice now into place with our grade-level teams.
Next, as you know, we are going to be adopting a new website. Once school gets up and running, you will see that transformation. We will use that website to better our communication with our parents, our staff to our parents, as well as our students. Looking to the website and a lot of other technological enhancements. We are partnering with Zoom. You will be starting to see Zoom meetings for the live instructional piece when we get that up and running. We also have adopted something at the grade school to communicate to parents. She can explain that.
So we'll be using Dojo as a communication tool in all of our classrooms with our parents so that your experience is not moving from one type of communication tool to another, and you'll have the same one with all of the children that are at Moody. So there's a new communication we're starting that goes right along with our technology goal.
And finally, we will be focusing on our buildings and grounds. And tonight we asked our Pat Rossi to be here to speak to some of our new hires as well as what we've been doing this summer in buildings and grounds to address our life safety, long list of life safety needs, as well as some of the beautification of our schools. Because we believe that having great schools that look good and are healthy as buildings will support our academic success. And finally, we will be completing our strategic planning as we were on track to do last spring when the pandemic hit. We will be partnering once again with Jan Magnuson to create a three-part plan for financial, academic, and facility success. And we want to make sure we communicate that and celebrate that for this school year. Do you have any questions at this time?
I have one. In the beginning of your presentation, you touched on the new website that the district is going to have. Do we have an expectation of when that's going to be up and ready? We have any word on that?
October?
Yeah,
That's what we're
I would
looking at.
say October 1st is where we're aiming right now.
Okay.
We have one technology staff member in the district.
Yeah.
And right now, we're very much focused on getting hybrid school up and running.
Understand. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And also, the process takes a while.
It does.
Picking out every little piece.
Yeah, understand.
We picked colors.
Yeah, we did.
That's pretty exciting. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next presentation directly relates to our first goal, and that is our COVID safety procedures. So, Mr. Bianchi.
First, I'd like to, can I take the mic up? Okay, first, I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me this opportunity to come and present to all of you. So, it's August, and it's time for school to start. So, we are excited for that opportunity to, get the school year going. With that being said, we have put into place our COVID-19 safety entry procedures, which really touch upon the CDC, the IDPH, and really goes above and beyond. And that's what we want, because we want to ensure safety for every individual within our community and who enter our buildings. So I'll just click. Okay, there you go. As everyone is aware, Public Act 101-0643, which you're all aware that just states that we need to put into place three forms of education: a full return, a blended, and a remote only. So I'm going to talk regarding our full return and our blended. So Norwich School District 80 is going to implement a new safety entry procedure, and we're going to utilize a self-certified process through our Crisis Go program. So it's really nice. So every morning at 5 a.m., an email is going to be sent to each family per student. So if you have 3 kids in your household, you're going to get 3 emails from Crisis Go. And what each household is going to do, they are going to answer the questions. It should take 10 seconds or less. They're very basic, but it's a self-certified procedure so that we can guarantee when they come into the building. With that being said, the questions are going to be, a student temperature is going to be taken and documented. We are not having the parents document the actual temperature. All we want to know is if they have a fever. If it's yes, then they need to document it. We need to really stress, we need everyone to make sure that we accurately portray whatever their temperature is. So if it's a fever, which the CDC and the IDPH use 100.4 or greater, then we would say yes. Within that system, automatically, it would then send to parents what to do. So the child has a fever. It's going to let them know that they should not report to school that day. They should stay home. They should contact their primary care physician and make sure to see what's going on. Because nowadays, it could be a COVID issue. It could be a regular sickness going on. So we just want to make sure we determine that, and we want to keep everyone, again, who enters our building, we want to keep them safe. So the next question asks for, do you have the following symptoms, such as sore throat, cough, chills, body aches for unknown reasons, shortness of breath for unknown reasons, loss of smell, loss of taste, or fever, as I said, greater than 100.4. Have you had close contact with a COVID-19 positive case? And have you tested positive for COVID-19? You answer the questions, you submit, it then goes into a database system that we now have here at Norwich School District 80, which will allow us to do contact tracing. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. So the system for entry, we have an outdoor that's going to be utilized on nice weather days, because we are going to, as soon as the students enter our property, they need to be wearing a mask. It's extremely important. We as teachers are going to educate the students on a daily basis through repetition, reminding them that it's extremely important that they properly wear their face covering. We also have a plan put in place that I'll get into in a little bit, what we're going to do if the weather is inclement and doesn't allow us to be able to check the students in outdoors. And I'll get into that. Again, face coverings are required once they're on property. Student arrival at Giles will be at 7:50, and student arrival at Lee will be at 8 o'clock. Now, last year, those of you that have students at Giles would know that at 7:50 would come, gates would open, and the students would be standing in the courtyard. That is going to look a lot different this year. So we're going to actually start the entry procedure at 7:50. So when you get in here, we are going to then begin. And I'm going to get into what that's going to look like in a few moments. But at Lee School, we have 5 entrances. We have a preschool and kindergarten entrance, and that is going to be entrance 11. For first grade, we are going to have entrance 8. For second grade, and Lee.
Do we know where these numbers are? Like, describe them?
Yeah, so I'll actually,
Maybe let
Michelle would probably be better. She's
So
great.
kindergarten and preschool and kindergarten is through the south gate. It is an entrance we've used before, but it's through the south gate around the side, right by the kindergarten area, the preschool area. First grade will still be through the south gate, but further down towards that playground and around the corner, so they'll each have their own area. Second grade is coming in to the very far north, which is the field area. Third grade is coming through the courtyard and up to the door 18, which is on the right. Fourth grade is going further on the right to door 19. So everyone is spread out, and it keeps the front entrance open for any kind of emergencies or anything that we might need space for.
So we have purchased, as you see, we have an A-frame, and we have a sign I put on there, 8th grade entrance only, and it lists COVID entry procedures are in effect, face coverings are required, and please follow the directions of the supervisor upon entry into the building. So each entrance will have an A-frame. It will be clearly marked for the entrance. So for example, if I'm using that A-frame that says 8th grade, only 8th graders are allowed to enter at that entrance, and I'll go into a little bit more why that is the reason. At Giles School, entrance 4 is going to be 5th grade, and that is, all the entrances are within our courtyard out here. The first one is when you first walk in and you turn right, it's by the leap room. That'll be the 5th grade entrance. Entrance 6 will be over here, which is the closest to Miss Helen office, the main office, which is entrance 5. The 7th graders will be entrance 7, and the 8th graders will be entrance 8, which is closest to the softball field. Each entrance will have 2 staff members that will be manning that station, and we're going to get more into what's going to happen. So each student in District 80 is now going to receive a student ID card. And that student ID card is going to look different at Lee than it does at Giles. So at Lee, we are not going to add pictures. At Lee, we are not going to add pictures just for stranger danger in case the card gets lost. We don't want a picture tied with a student's name. So they will have their name, their grade, and their student ID number on there. Also on the ID card will be a barcode for our new lunch program through Gourmet Gorilla. And we'll also have a QR code that will work for our Crisis Go. So what will happen is that student will come to the entrance, they will scan, they'll all be provided with lanyards too. At Lee they'll have red lanyards, at Giles they'll have purple lanyards. So their ID will be attached to them. They are breakaway for safety as required by law. The teacher will then scan their ID. Once they scan their ID, 5 colors will appear. Possibly could appear. 1 of 5, thank you, yes. 1 of 5 will possibly appear. Now we're hoping we only see green. That is our goal. We are hoping that we only see green. And I'll get into more about that. Green means they are allowed entry. They have successfully passed the self-certified test at home. When we see green, our staff is then going to take their temperature again. We want to make sure, we want to have that secondary protocol put into place because we want to guarantee every entry into the building is safe. So they will be then scanned with their temperature, and then they will proceed directly to their classroom. And I'm going to get more into that, what that's going to look like in a little bit. The next color is red, which means they're at risk. That means that they possibly have a temperature, they've been, they tested positive for COVID, whatever. It would show up as red. They should not be at the building. Again, when they did not successfully pass that self-certified, more information will be provided to those parents on the steps that they need to take. If it's quarantine, that means their temperature could be close to that 100.4. Maybe they were in close contact with someone, but they have not tested positive for COVID, so that would be a quarantine. If they are red or orange, they would automatically report to the quarantine room. And then the nurse would do a self-assessment to make sure to see if we need to send them home or if they're allowed to have entry into the classroom. A blue, this program, Crisis Go, works with our SIS, our school information system. So this is done every single day, Monday through Friday. Even if your last name begins with a Z and you know you're not coming to school for in-person until Thursday and Friday, you will still take this every day for the contact tracing, which is extremely important. But blue lets staff know that this individual should not be here at school today, so they're going to go directly to the main office, call home, and then they will be picked up because they are remote learning. The next color is gray, and that is uncertified. And what that simply means is, I have 4 kids, you guys have kids, it gets busy in the house in the morning. We all understand that. You're trying to get the kids up, you're trying to get the kids fed. And, sometimes you just don't have time, you forget to self-certify. That's okay. That's going to let us know that the parents did not self-certify their child, so then we are going to follow the procedures and ask those questions to that student to see if they successfully can go forward. Again, green means they have entry, they're not at risk, they will enter into the building. Red, again, they're here, they cannot go to the classroom, they will go to the quarantine room where the nurse is. Same with orange, they'll go report to the quarantine room. Blue, they will report to the main office, phone call home, the child will then go home for remote learning. Gray, we are going to do all the testing and go from there. I do have a nice, did I bring it up? I don't know if I brought it up or not. No, I did not. I have laminated signs. Each entrance will have it posted on the doorway, and staff that is supervising those doorways will have the procedures put in place. The procedures will be placed on the website. Communication is the key. It's very important that we communicate with all of our stakeholders so that everyone fully understands what is happening. Now I have some visual social distance communication markers that you will soon see within our buildings. The first one is the yellow where the feet are, says stand here. You'll, in a little bit on the next slide, I think you'll see a picture, but each entryway that we come in, students will then stand on one of those things. This is when the weather is inclement and we need to get the students in here, but we're keeping them in an area, for example, that's right out here by the elevator. They will be social distance. Again, they stand there, we scan. As soon as we scan, they go to the classroom. Scan, go to the classroom. Process should not take that long, especially if everyone is coming green. If you can go back, thank you. Throughout our buildings, on the floors at both Giles and Lee, you'll see the blue marker on the bottom left. That'll just remind everyone to properly social distance 6 feet away. To the top right, you'll see a red stand here and a purple stand here. The red will be for Lee School, the purple will be for Giles School. Those will be outside the classrooms. They will be properly social distanced. The students will stand on those markers and wait for their time to go into their classroom. But they'll be properly stationed throughout. So it might be a little visual overload in the beginning with all the markers, but we will get through it. And then the bottom one, I'm sorry, on that other slide, was for the stairs. When students are going up and down stairs, we will remind students that they need to maintain 3 steps away from students. And again, staff is going to, through repetition, remind the students to follow the proper procedures for everyone's safety. Masks a sign will be posted on every doorway to allow them, when you're entering this building, a mask is required. We have several forms up here. These are forms that will be used for contact tracing. So right now, just at the bottom right corner one, let's say a student named Alec Brown. I don't believe we have a student in the district named Alec Brown. So a student named Alec Brown, if he would enter and show up as COVID positive, we would be able to do contact tracing. We would be able to know that, okay, he was close to 30, 36 kids possibly through the contact tracing and 3 staff members. Then we would be in communication with the parents. We have letters already prepared that we will share with the parents to let them know the next steps, because it's very important to stop the spread of COVID-19. We need to communicate and make everyone aware that there's a possibility that they were in close contact with that individual. And I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Palmer.
So the most sort of delicate part of opening school up is the decision points. And really, there's no right answer. Now, the governor, of course, can make a decision to shut schools again. He did it March 13th. He could do it again. We've heard in my superintendent meetings that they are looking to the metric of the positivity rate. So they're, all spring we heard different kinds of metrics, different kinds of measures that they were looking to. Now we've settled on something called the positivity rate. They believe that any positivity rate of 8% or higher is too high. That's where community spread is occurring, where a region should go back to phase 3, for example. So we will look to the Illinois Department of Public Health website, where you can track that like a stock ticker. You can watch the positivity rate on a daily basis if you'd like. But we also locally here in our schools will have decisions to make. If the positivity rate stays below 8%, we as a school community still might have to make the decision to shut our schools and go to remote e-learning. So I'm sorry you can't see this very well, but one of the things that we will think about is when we get that first case, we will probably have a first case. Now, Michelle and I spoke with a school that's been operating since May 11th and haven't had a case. It can happen. However, we're ready. The first positive diagnosis, not somebody who seems to have some symptoms, but somebody who actually tests positive and a positive result. We are prepared to let our parents know, our teachers know, and certainly the Board of Education. We will be notifying the Illinois Department of Public Health. They will probably guide what happens next. It basically depends. If the Illinois Department of Public Health believes that there is community spread, they can recommend to us, and we would, quarantine a classroom of students, a grade level, a school, or a district. That we could make a decision to shut down for 14 days and monitor and go to remote e-learning, right? So school continues, but we may make that decision depending on the case. Now, there could be a student who tests positive who wasn't in school, who had been attending the hybrid model. Maybe a parent got sick, so the parent kept the family home. The child tested, and a week later, we find out the child tested positive. We go back, we talk to the Illinois Department of Public Health, we determine that child probably did not contract COVID while they were at school, and therefore we would not shut down, we would not quarantine. We're monitoring health every day for every person. The teachers have to certify, the students have to certify, the principal has to certify. So We are monitoring everyone's symptoms. But we can, and we will make it very clear to our parents that there may be a situation where we have to keep kids out of our school community and make them, even though they chose hybrid, that we have to keep them at home for everyone's safety. The goal is to keep COVID out of District 80, 100%. And that's what we're gonna have to do. Now, at some point, we may find that we have, even if the Illinois Department of Public Health hasn't shut us down, that we can't staff our building, that we have too many staff members out. We have that problem on a regular basis in normal school where we are short on subs. The whole state is short on substitute teachers. Please, if you know someone, have them sign up to be a substitute teacher. It really would support our schools. But if we can't staff our buildings and we can't run our classrooms, we will go to remote e-learning. And that would be a decision that I would bring to the Board of Education. Many of these decisions I would bring to the Board of Education, and we would make that decision. So in order to communicate this to our families, Michelle and I will be hosting meetings, virtual meetings, next week, Wednesday night, 6 o'clock for Lee and 7 o'clock for Giles. We'll be sending out information in the tracks and sending out invites to everyone so that parents can hear this themselves, that they know what will happen. We need to, it's completely up to a partnership of the parents to make the best choice not to send your kid if there is any chance that they have been exposed. And we're going to make this very, very clear to parents in our meetings. Quarantining procedures. If we suspect a staff member or student is sick, we will have a quarantine room here and at Lee where students will be separated immediately from the rest of the kids and sent home. I don't anticipate a lot of kids hanging out in the quarantine room. I think they'll just be going home. And then we will have an opportunity to talk about contact tracing. It's something that we've been told as schools, they don't have enough contact tracers at the Illinois Department of Public Health or the Cook County Department of Public Health. That's why Bob is doing, the Crisis Go app, so that we have a hope of doing this kind of contact tracing ourselves. Quarantining is 14 days, but we have had lots of people who have reported that it takes longer than that if you actually do get sick. So lots of people can make the decision. It may come down to just us. Families, the bottom line is families need to get ready to quarantine. Your own child, the school, your child's classroom, you need to prepare and have a plan if we have to go to remote learning again. So that is our presentation. Are there questions?
Yeah. Mr. Biecki, I got a question for you, being that you're the dean of the district. It's not an option for a student to wear a mask, correct?
So, everyone should be wearing a mask. Now, if there's a medical, we will be working with their doctor. There's a procedure and a process that we do have in place that we have worked.
At this time, I don't have anyone who will be without a mask.
And I think you answered my next question for you. What I was going to ask is, it's sensitive because I want to remind you, we're an open forum now. So, but there's a procedure in place if somebody is refusing to wear a mask or not adhering to the guidelines of the district.
Absolutely. So we have a procedure. We have procedures put in place. Letters are already written
Okay.
That we just have to include their name and everything.
Perfect, thank
And
you.
you would be, the Board of Education would receive a copy of that in your board packet.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I got one more, Ms. Palmer, this one's for you. And I don't want to jump ahead, so if I am, you can stop me right now. It might be a communications report. Are we going to be able to see the inside of a classroom? Parents, how it's set up and visually see, like we did here with the stickers and with what's on the stairs, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So next week, we are going to do this Zoom call with the parents. But on curriculum night, which is the following week, Monday night is Giles and Wednesday night is Lee. I think that's what we decided. You will see a slide with a picture of what it looks like. A sample, if you will. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Moving on to our administrative reports. Ms. Palmer?
Sure. So, tonight I have a lot of thank yous. First, I'd like to thank Michelle because she has been spearheading our residency and registration online process. This was a goal I set for the district long before COVID. This is something that I've wanted to transition to for a long time. And I have to tell you, between Michelle and John Job, they got it done. And we have had, at this time, 875 students cleared for residency and registration of approximately 1,020. We have about 166 who are still going through the process. So what this means is 176 students have proven residency and they are registered, they've gone through the online process, and they've been sent information of how to pay their fees. Oh, not yet. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will push out Pushcoin. Pushcoin is our online payment vendor, and they will handle all of our payments from now on. So when we get back to real school and we have things like field trips and things like band fee or anything you pay money through the school will go now through this Pushcoin, which is wonderful for our auditors and for our accounting. So that is fantastic. We do have people who will not make it through our process. And we are planning to investigate them. We'd like to hire this year a subcontracted investigation firm, which we've done in the past, because Michelle and I just don't have time. But so we will be sending a list of people to that residency investigator. They do go to the house. They do ask to see where the children sleep. Because residency is where the child lays his or her head 51% of the time. So if it is a divorce situation and the child is shared custody, then as long as, 4 nights out of 7, they're at one residence, that's kind of how it counts. So we do investigate, and we will continue to be doing that this year. We have our parent commitment survey, which was put out a couple of weeks ago. We re-upped it this past week in the tracts, and we have about 80% of our students who've chosen hybrid, and about 20% who have chosen 100% remote e-learning. We are allowing parents to change their mind, and we have had a significant number, probably a dozen to 20 between the two schools, who chose hybrid originally and now have changed to remote. Okay? The next item, I do also want to celebrate our district staff Kimmy, our bookkeeper, Sarah, and once again, Michelle did a fabulous job this year with our bookkeeping and accounting. And I'm telling you, our treasurer, Hillary Sienna, said that this is how an audit should go. So our auditors came in July 30th and 31st, and it was smooth and just a really, really positive result. So we were very pleased because our goal was to have a very smooth audit this year. Tonight you will see several calendar changes that I'm asking you to approve. You will see that the election day is a non-attendance day. We are not allowed to have e-learning. We're not allowed to have anything that day. Not a teacher institute, nothing. So that everyone has an opportunity to vote. So you'll see several things. I fully expect that this is not the last time you will see the calendar. The calendar is going to continue to evolve as the situation with this pandemic evolves. Tonight, we are asking you to approve support staff increases. Traditionally in this district, we have had a Me Too raise. So we settled the teacher's contract last month. So now we're bringing you the support staff, and the request is a 1.9% raise, which is a CPI raise just like the teachers. Then also you will see some staffing changes tonight. One of the things you will see is that we are bringing back our last, I believe it's our last, RIFT staff member. One of our teachers who was non-renewed due to the fact he was a first-year teacher. He was a third-grade teacher, Anthony Coletta. We are hiring him back in fifth, sixth grade social studies. So we're super excited about that because we really liked Anthony and he did a good job for us. So we're glad we can hire him back. And like I said before, we are hosting a parent meeting virtually next week. We're super excited about being able to talk through any concerns parents have about coming back in person or being 100% online. I've had several emails asking me if there's going to be live instruction. There is going to be a lot of live instruction. So we look forward to explaining that to everyone and allowing them to ask the questions that are worrying them next month, or next week, sorry. Let me just keep that. Great.
So over at Lee School, we've been working on our entry plan for our students, and not just our physical entry into the building to make sure everyone's safe with coming in, but we've been working on a social emotional plan in order to support our teachers, in order to support our students. The students will have direct contact every week with either a social worker or psychologist. Parents can also have contact with a social worker or psychologist as well, so that we can make sure, as part of our district goals, we are taking care of our student social emotional needs, which will go right in line with our responsive classroom initiative at Lee this year. As it was explained already, we've been very busy social distancing, getting everything ready in the building. We have painted many hallways in the building in line with one of our goals of beautification. I think that you probably have heard me say before that when I often tour people pre-COVID around the building, and they've been to Lee and their children are now coming to Lee, and they say, wow, it hasn't changed a bit. While that's lovely, that's, something we'd like to say, wow, this looks different, that's nice. So we are working on that. Schedules for Lee, we will now kind of have to move to how Giles hands out schedules. We'll be handing out schedules next week. Midweek, you should expect those to come out so that you know when exactly your child will be online and who will be online, if they are an online only or if they are hybrid. And we have in the district 24 new students that have signed up, which is great. We welcome all the new families to Lee and to Giles. And we're continuing run registration. I thank you for the kind words. That it's a team effort. We all work together on registration, on residency, on push point, on the audit, everything. We all really work well together. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Does the board have any questions for either Ms. Palmer or Mrs. Guzzo? Moving on to board committees. Board policy and development. We're on our third reading. Building and grounds.
Okay, let's see, we have, based on updates on, we need to understand, the grounds director has been reviewing and approving the maintenance needs of our mechanical system. One example, especially at this time, is air circulation and filtering. Hoping by first day of school, our building systems will be in the most prepared state. We are planning to remodel the bathrooms in Lee that the daycare uses. I've brought up the ins and outs of this in the last several months, but looks like it's going to be proceeded with. And the aim is completing by early fall. The Lee parking lot, storm drain, manhole, and the asphalt repairs have been worked on. Repairs also included some little repairs on the strip off Cortland, right in front of the school, and the gated area south of the building leading to the far back playground. The letter was pretty comprehensive. Maybe some of you saw it just on a couple of crews working on it last week, and it seemed like a whole lot of work. But so you hear me bring up life safety a lot. The main issue, like I mentioned months prior, has been door repairs. The door company is near completion, and that was, although all their work was based on a comprehensive list provided by the architecture firm STR, who done the life safety. Another life safety factor that brought up and I just wanted to touch on is that wood ceiling of the Giles 5th grade wing. While we thought we were set on painting that ceiling with fireproof paint, as it turned out we thought we had, there was a misunderstanding of what sort of paint. The fireproof paint has made it a lot more expensive. So if that is what you would take to fireproof paint it, there's new considerations as to how to remedy that. Of course, it would be in conjunction with what the STR architect who works with us, Alec, and he thinks, because there are alternatives to just the painting. Let's see. In today's agenda, there's a motion to approve a maintenance custodian. This committee brought in 3 applicants time ago. I was able to sit on 2 interviews. The candidate selected has a wealth of experience and was approved by the administration and the building grounds director. Today's agenda also has a motion to approve a lead maintenance position. I believe there was 3, if not 4 applicants that were in. The selection made meets the needs of what administration, staff, and the board has hoped for some time we could get in terms of skills, experience, and certifications. So that is definitely steps in the right direction for a district that needs a lot of work and still does. That's all I have.
Any questions for Frank? Yeah, I'm going to introduce Frank. Any questions for Frank? So I want to take a minute and I want to add a branch to the B&G report. And I think this is something, if the board is okay with, we can do maybe quarterly, or we can do when there's some bigger type news or a more sensitive topic in relation to building and grounds. I want to welcome our building and grounds consultant, Mr. Pat Rossi. I want to welcome him to the district. The board is very happy to have your experience and your know-how. So I want to give you the floor right now, and you can kind of go over maybe the restructuring of the maintenance unit as a whole, and also touch on the new model that the district will be moving forward with.
Okay.
Thank you,
So,
Pat.
well, thank you, Terry. Thank you very much for having me. So one of the things that we looked at when I talked with Stephanie and Michelle was, timing. In the past, we had all our guys here from 7 to 3:30, which made it a little difficult to get things done in the room because obviously that's most of the time they're occupied with students. So we split the 3 shifts. So now we're going to actually have one of the guys starting at 5:30 in the morning, right? And this will kind of help in the wintertime if there's any snow or ice. Boom, there's already a guy here. There's no need for somebody to come in extra. No need to pay overtime. There's already a guy here, and he can do both schools. Then we'll have kind of a middle shift, 7 to 3:30. And then one of the other problems that I was told we had was the communication with the custodial company. So the third gentleman, or woman, is going to work from 10 to 6:30. So there'll be a 3.5-hour overlap with Citywide, so that if there are issues that happened or didn't happen in classrooms, that person is here, not just, 2 shifts passing in the night. There's actually time where this person can take the custodial company over and say, this is what I want done, or this is what wasn't done, or this is what's got to happen. And it'll also allow us to have somebody here 3.5 hours after the students leave the building, normally, to do any kind of work inside of a classroom. Replacing ballasts, replacing lights, changing filters, anything that takes more than a few minutes. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing we did was really look at their skills. Because the district hired a day porter for each school, the custodial aspect of this person's job knowledge really kind of diminished. Because now they're going to be more of a maintenance person. So we really looked at the mechanical, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrical, because when I have to fix something in a building, and I have to pay prevailing wage to a mechanical contractor, that's costing me between $250, $300 per hour. That's not what the guy's making, but that's what his wage, his benefits, prevailing wage, what his company's going to charge us. So to be able to get people in-house, okay, that can do this type of work, I think is going to be a great savings to the district, so that instead of farming out these things, we can do them in-house, correct? So mechanical is really a big driver of why, and when we interview these people, we really harped on mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, right? If you can do those 3 things, I can teach you how to hang a poster board. Anybody can paint a wall, anybody can change a P-trap, but can you change a pump motor? Can you change a lug joint coupling? Can you change a sensor on an air handler? Can you change a condenser fan on a 180-ton train chiller? Those are things that are going to save us lots of money, right? Not only that, but looking at the life safety list, and I got to thank Frank, he did a really nice job of kind of incorporating life safety and then a previous kind of building audit into one nice book. So while COVID may not be good for students, it's really good for maintenance work because we're going to be in the building a lot by ourselves. And we're going to be really able to drill down on this life safety list, right? And the things that we can do in-house, Wednesdays when there's no kids here, there's no reason why we can't have all 3 guys, 24 man hours dedicated to life safety, punch list. Just knock them out, one at a time. Mr. Truzzo touched on Johansson. Most of his project was punch list related items. One after the other, knocking those things off. So we really got a good head start. A lot of the other things now we can do in-house until we get to the larger cost items. And later on, once we get done with the start of school, I'll be presenting you, those things and how we can kind of go forward in the next 5 to 10 years. Putting aside monies every year to kind of address the most important issues first, the ones that cost us the most money, the ones that are the most hazardous to the students, and going down. So that's kind of how we put that all together. Other than that, the biggest thing is we have our BAS contractor going through a verification of our entire BAS system. Now more than ever, air conditioning, heating, and ventilation is very paramount, because in order for us to take in outside air, we have to have fans that are working. We have to use the right MERV filters that allow enough filtration so that we're getting enough air movement, but not so much as that we're choking down our movement, right? Everybody says, well, you get more high efficiency filters. Some of our systems aren't meant to work with those high efficiency filters, which means they won't be able to pass enough air, which will have a negative effect. So there's kind of a sweet spot of, having enough filtration and enough airflow throughout the building. So one of the things that we're working on with our verification contractor is he's checking all our outside air dampers. ASHRAE recommends 15% outside air normally. My goal for the district is to double that and go as much as we can to get as much outdoor air in the building as possible, to change over air. Talked with Ms. Palmer about allowing teachers to open windows, fully open all the windows you want. Let's get that fresh air rolling in. It won't hurt anything. It's going to cost us a little bit more in energy, right? Because when we have to cool that warmer air, that's going to cost us a little bit more. But because it's outdoor fresh air, it'll be much better for the kids. Conversely, in the wintertime, right, when we can take in outdoor air, when it's not so cold as to cause issues with coils bursting and so on and so forth, we're going to try to take in as much outdoor air as possible and change over the air intake. Now, the BAS system was in quite a condition, right? So it's going to take some monies to get it back to where it needs to be. But right now, our BAS contractor is doing like a commissioning where he's checking out every part, right? And we're going to get a breakdown punch list, if you will, of items that need to be corrected. And the person that we recommended to be hired is a service fitter, and HVAC is that person's trade for 20 years. So they do this all day long. So we're hoping that all those punch list items, as many of them as possible, can be done in-house with that person fully focused on that. And my plan is to allow him to be able to concentrate on the mechanical. I'm going to take care of all the peripheral COVID issues, cleaning issues, purchasing issues, all those other things. Let the maintenance guys really focus on the maintenance of the building, getting exhaust fans working, getting louvers to work properly, making sure we're taking in outside air, making sure our belts are properly fitted so our motors are running as efficiently as possible. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Looking down the list, we did do a punch list with Johansson. There are a few items that are still outstanding. Most of them involve Anderson Lock, who's supplying a lot of the cylinders and things, and some of those things are back ordered because we're not able to get them. So that's kind of one of the things that's slowing that up a little bit, but they're just about done. Mike Bruno, who's the one and only maintenance guy that's employed by the district right now, is doing a terrific job day in and day out at the school. He's got 3 or 4 students that are with him every day. And Michelle and Stephanie went through and did a Google Doc and detailed what they wanted in every room. And they just went around and they basically emptied out half of both of these buildings. They did a great job. And I want to commend them for that. So far, so good. Citywide has begun. We met with them several times. We have a plan for them. We also gave them some marching orders to be completed. We talked about high-touch areas during the school year where the kids are going to be in contact with, making sure that those things are done every day, redirecting their staff so that those things are done every day. We also purchased hand sanitizer and disinfectant, which is going to be dispersed throughout the school for teachers to be able to use in their classrooms. So I think we're ready to go. I'm excited to get these 2 gentlemen on board. I think they're going to bring something good to the district, and we're hoping that we can, move the ball forward.
Any questions or comments for Pat from the board? Pat, thank you, and I know the district is fortunate, and we're happy to have you, so thank you very much. Moving on, Communications Committee.
So the Communications Committee had a meeting on July 30th. With that, Tim and I have a recommendation to the board. As we know, we had solicited the community for community involvement on our committee, and we were able to get a person to show interest, and that would be Dana Hodge. So Tim and I are requesting your approval to allow Dana to sit on our communications committee. So if we got the approval, we'd like to move forward with adding Dana to our committee.
Me personally, I think Dana's great, and I think she's a great addition to that committee. I have no problem with that.
Also, Jason Murray also sat on that committee. He did finally reach out to me several days after our meeting and said that at this time he can no longer sit on our committee, so is stepping down. So if there's anybody who would like to join the committee, we'll take anybody that is willing to work with the team and, you know, get that word out of all the great things that are happening in the district. So with that, we did meet on the 30th. We met via Zoom. All attendees that were present were myself, Jim Lunston, book administration, and Maria Lala and Alan Kita. We discussed in great detail, you know, kind of what that message we wanted to communicate to the community. And so basically what we wanted to do was create a promotional video about the school and just highlighting some of the different areas in which we've done some really great things as far as, you know, there would have been a welcome back message from our superintendent, talking about some of the academic changes we've done, talking about finances, where we're at with the finance, buildings and grounds, some of the great things that we've done inside our building. And we wanted to kind of communicate these, create these communication circles where we would partner up with the village of Howard Heights, the library, the Comcast Community Broadcasting, and maybe even the Polish outlet came up in that as well. But at this time, based off of the information, which is we need to kick off the school with, we just felt, or Superintendent Palmer felt that at this time, we need just to postpone that promotional video because she needs to communicate a lot of the safety and health and entering the building protocols. And so once we migrate through that, we'd like to create this community or promotional video and hopefully have just some key members of the team even just say a few words in that video, and maybe ending it with our board president, Sam, just you know, welcoming the students back at some point. So
It might coordinate nicely with the rollout of the new website.
yeah.
So
Just you know, in the meeting, you know, the question was, you know, do we have anybody that kind of shoot the video and make it look nice? And the answer is yes. I've secured 2 volunteers, a professional videographer, and also an editor that are willing to come in whatever time they can. Anything pertaining to COVID updates for parents, anything about going back to school, and they've offered for a direct promotional video for the district. They have done some subcontract work through the district in the past, very interested in the neighborhood and willing to help. So everything moving forward as we get some time available to put things together, this will be at no cost in a matter of putting the communications together.
Okay, any questions or comments for the communications committee from the other board members? Everybody's okay with Dana Hodge coming on board? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Finance.
Nothing to report right now.
A report from the finance committee. Negotiations. What I do, it's not there yet. So the collective bargaining agreement, as mentioned last board meeting, was agreed upon between both sides, both bargaining sides. I expect the copy of that agreement to be on the website as soon as possible. It isn't right now, but just a quick touch base, it's a 2-year agreement. The details can be found inside that once it's posted. We'll get it posted as soon as we can. Norwich Park.
So the Norwich Park Committee, we'll discuss it in closed session because it pertains to a lease agreement. So we'll update the team during closed session.
IASB delegate. With the resignation of a board member tonight, that person held the position of the IASB delegate on behalf of the board. I would like the board to consider somebody filling that position, or districts that I've heard of. We don't necessarily need one, but it's up to us as a board if we do want to fill that and who we want to fill it with. Any discussion on that? Okay. We will be working on that in the future. Old business. Board policy updates, we'll have our third reading. New business. Based on the resignation tonight from a board member, it was given to me here. A couple things I want to touch on in regards to filling that vacant seat. The district, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, we do not have a policy on how to fill that seat. However, in my communication with the district attorney, Korea Law, she will be sending you over some literature and some legalities on when that seat needs to be filled and how the board can go about filling that. My recommendation is that each board member is in on that process from A to Z. And what I mean by that is when the district sends out the proper documentation and paperwork to fill that seat, my expectations for the board is to call a special board meeting, go into closed session, and discuss who would like to fill that seat and what interview and who the board sees as the best fit, most beneficial for the district. So is there any discussion on that?
I would like to for what it's worth, there was a situation where we had an empty seat, and I don't know who it was that came up with the actual procedure, but it was applicants that went through, and the entire board was involved. And I'd like to see if either I can find that, if there's any.
No, we have it here.
You have that there?
Yeah.
And just see how that coincides with what Korea Law says, just because it seemed to go very smooth and very calm and had a basis to it. And it worked out well at the time.
So I have it here, Tim, and I was given it by our district secretary, Sarah Buslick here. The question I have for it, do you know, and if this is not a question that could be answered in open forum, you use caution with the answer, who created this document, and is it legally, I know it's a procedure, it's not a policy, but I just want to make sure that we can use this. I don't mind, but I want to make sure our attorneys, like you said, are in accordance with this and whatever paperwork they give us. So before we enact this and put this into use, I'd like you, Ms. Palmer, and direct you to give this to Korea Law. I'd like them to review it. I'd like them to give the green light on it. We can for sure use it. You know?
No, I want to make sure it's within the guidelines,
Sure.
within what our suggest. I was just suggesting to look at it because it was very peaceful, very fair process across all applicants, and it allowed each individual board member to give input on each individual applicant. So, there was some give and take between board members, but everybody got to speak their mind on each individual and kind of whittle it down in a fair fashion for the community. So, by all means, I just wanted to let you know that went smooth, and if Korea Law says that it's within realm, I think we should consider it.
Yeah, so.
I believe that process, those procedures or whatever it is, it was directed by the superintendent and then shared with our last attorney group, so I think that was their.
Yeah, I don't have a problem using it again as long as our current firm that represents the district gives it the green light in addition to what paperwork they have. But I definitely want to see this board call special meetings when the time is right, and all 6 of us in the room interviewing and making a decision as to what we think is best for the district. Other new business that I want to touch on, Ms. Palmer, that real quick, that we spoke about briefly, but I want the board to know, I'd like you to look into the parking lot situation in regards to employee parking. We brought that up, so I want you to start looking for some placards for staff parking only, and that goes in conjunction with what we were talking about.
Sure.
So if you could,
Our lovely new repaired parking lot.
yes, the parking lot's repaired, it's gonna be a
At the
staff, it's gonna be a staff-only lot, and the staff is to have their placards in the car. And then we'll move forward from there. Any other new business from the board?
First reading of policy 5.
Yep, we do. Well, any other comments before I get to that? All right, we will have our first reading of policy 5.122 in regards to the board vacancy. Any board comments?
Yes, I know it's hard, but I like seeing more faces. I want to urge getting the word out and acting as a community. I know I've said in previous meetings that I'm, in comparison to things I've seen, I'm proud of this district in the way that it came out of last year, and I'm extremely excited about where it's heading. Nothing's ever 100%, nothing's ever perfect, but we are definitely on the positive side in comparison and preparedness, and the effort that I'm seeing going in from the administration and staff to open up this year is just amazing to see it come together. I mean, all in all, I believe the district believes in in-person learning. We know it's important, but we have to do it based on health as well. So I'm looking to the people that are here and the people that do share the video when they see it. Social media is big to get it out. It's going to take an entire community to keep this community healthy and get these kids back in the classroom as fast as possible and as safely as possible so we can have the best educational outcome. So just ask that everybody work together, care about each other, and let's get it done for the kids.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Any other board comments? If there's no other board comments, I need a motion to adjourn the closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, collective negotiating matters, purchase or lease of real property, and review of closed session minutes, all within accordance with the Illinois compiled statutes.
No motion.
Motion made by Board Member Ludston, seconded by Board Member Biondo. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano? Mr. Palazzo?
Yes, the motion does carry. We are now out of open session at 8:19 p.m. for the tape.
Thank you very much for coming, Bob and Pat. We really
Thank you.
appreciate your contributions tonight. Thank you.
Let's try to reconvene, 8:35. 8:35. Okay, I need a motion to return to open session. Motion made by Board Member Biondo, seconded by Board Member Ludston. And note the time back in open session at 9:37 in the PM. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, we're now back in open. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion before I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is now modified? Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Mazzano, seconded by Berard.
Yep, thank you, sir.
Sarah, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Mazzano? Mr. Berardi?
Yeah.
Mr. Biondo? Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to action items. I need a motion to approve the hiring of Anthony Coletta, 5th, 6th grade social studies at Giles School. Any discussion? Okay, motion please.
Second.
Motion made by Mazzano, seconded by Ludston. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mazzano? Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio? Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the hiring of Anthony Cardamone, maintenance custodian, Giles School. Any discussion? Motion made by Board Member Biondo. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Berardi. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the hiring of Joseph Vitale, lead maintenance. Any discussion? Motion made by Mazzano, seconded by Ludston. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Lutston?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the hiring of Mary Beth Schaefer, fourth grade maternity leave school, lane 1, step 1. Any discussion on that?
I have a question on this one. She's coming in to fill a maternity leave?
Yes, Whitney Scott, maternity leave, previously approved by the board.
Thank you.
Motion made by Mazzano, seconded by Biondo. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mazzano? Mr. Lutston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. I need a motion to approve the hiring of Laura Bartucci, third grade special ed Lee School at lane MA plus 15, step 1. Any discussion?
You said third grade, we have.
That was the modification.
Right, that was the one
Oh,
modification.
that's
Yeah.
right, you did say that, sorry.
Yes, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Specific reason for the MA15, was this the best candidate? Is this something that I know the M8 is a bump?
Yeah, so we have horrible candidate pool this year. Very, very low number of candidates. She is by far the best candidate. Yes, and remember our new contract, that is a much lower number than in the past. We use the new CBA agreement, and so that is a much lower number for that lane and stuff. So, yeah. If you know anyone who needs a special education teaching job, please send us candidates. We are desperate, yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, I'll ask for a motion. Motion made by Berardi and seconded by Biondo. Can I have a roll call, please, sir?
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano? Mr. Lutston?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the support staff increases. Any discussion on that? Okay. Motion made by Lutston, seconded by Mazzano. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lutston?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I need a motion to approve posting of the tentative 2020 through 2021 budget to comply with 30-day notice before adoption. Any discussion? Okay, motion made by Biondo.
Second.
Seconded by Lutston. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Lutston?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Palazzo?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Board meeting reflection time.
So we still have one more reading, Sarah, for these, or are these coming in tonight?
You approved them.
Huh?
You approved them under
That's what I
consent.
thought, so this is coming back? Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone just wants to go.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn at 9:45 PM. Motion made by Board Member Mazzano. Seconded by Board Member Biondo. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?